Southeast Asia is a group of diverse countries between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, featuring indigenous cultures influenced by Indian, Chinese, and Western cultures. It has long been a favorite corner of the world for globe-tramping backpackers, known for its perfect beaches, tasty cuisines, and low prices. But despite all the uniqueness that Southeast Asia has to offer, do you know that Southeast Asia has been a focal point for international concern over the spread of terrorism?
Bangkok in 2015, Jakarta early this year, Kuala Lumpur a few months ago, and Davao just last week. These are just some of the recent attacks in key cities in Southeast Asia, triggering a chilling effect in a region that is said to be one of the terror hubs of the world.
Terrorism, known as the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government or its citizen to further certain political or social objectives. Walter Lacker, an influential scholar about terrorism and political violence, defines terrorism as the illegitimate use of force to achieve a political objective when innocent people are targeted. Meanwhile, James M. Pollan has defined terrorism as the premeditated, planned and systematic murder, mayhem, and threat of innocent people in order to instill fear and intimidation in the public in order to obtain a political or tactical advantage, usually to influence an audience. Terrorism in the Southeast Asia has been a perturbing matter since centuries. From the Country Reports on Terrorism 2019, data has shown that among the active groups in 2019 includes Jamaah Islamiyah, Abu Sayyaf group militants, ISIS-affiliated Jamaah Ansarut Daulah in Indonesia, Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, and Ansar al-Khalifah Philippines in the Philippines. These terror groups mainly attack on civilians and security forces, and their forms of attack usually consist of IEDs, small arms, kidnap for ransoms, and suicide bombings.
3 Filipino fishermen seized on the shores of Pompor Island in Sabah, Malaysia, is thought to have been decapitated by Abu Sayyaf militants. The rest of the crew steered the trawler back to the Semporna jetty, while they took only 3 crew members. According to the news, it stated that the officer said the kidnap for ransom gangs held a number of other hostages, and it including foreigners in the southern Philippines but none in Sabah. The issues that attack on Philippines can be seen that the government policy are really responsible and concerned to save the country by put on the military pressure to the terrorist group that appointed by Abu Sayyaf. From January 2002 until July 31, 2002, were guerrilla attacks on the islands of Mindanao and 1,300 of troops to the Philippines sent by the United States in operations to help the Philippine Armed Forces oppose the Abu Sayyaf terrorist group on the Basilan southwest of Mindanao.
Sayyaf, who have affiliated themselves with Islamic State. They have conducted some terrible bombings there in the past, and it looks like they've done it again today. There was a double bombing right in the middle of town. It was market day, large crowds around, and aimed at some soldiers who were on patrol there.
Former MNLF members and Filipinos who had fought in Afghanistan formed the Abu Sayyaf offshoots group in 1990. Terrorist tactics were used by Abu Sayyaf, including civilian murders, church bombings in Sulu, and an increase in kidnappings for ransom.
In October 2002, the Bali bombing scarred Australia forever. An Indonesian terror cell attacked 2 nightclubs in Bali, leaving 202 people dead, including 88 Australians.
Indonesia has the world's largest Muslim population and has better extremist activity since its independence from the Netherlands in 1949. Based on the terrorist attack that happened in Indonesia, there are several issues that cause the existence of terrorism in Indonesia, such as the aim to impose Islamic law as a foundation to establish an Islamic state to waging jihad against West. For example, the construction of an Islamic caliphate in Indonesia occurred because it is believed that Indonesia and its secular-oriented government have broken the commitment made in the 1949 in Jakarta Charter to give Islam the special importance. The issue of Bali bombings by Jemaah Islamiyah on October 12, 2002 in a nightclub district are more about personal context and are centered on intercommunal violence in the Maluku and Poso provinces rather than to global jihad against Islam.
Jemaah Islamiyah believed the Bali bombs would bring about a religious revolution in Indonesia. But instead it led to a crackdown on extremists, the creation of a national anti-terrorism force, and a special police unit, Detachment 88. Nasir Abbas has spoken to 300 people arrested on terrorism charges. He says it's about shifting their view of jihad to one of non-violence. Today, Nasir is checking in with one of his de-radicalisation subjects, a member of Jemaah Islamiyah who helped source chemicals for the Bali bombs. Extremism still maintains its grip on him.
Pas kejadian itu kan di TV ya, hebat sekali kita. Itu saja waktu itu. Masya Allah, sampai segitu. Kalau seandainya korbannya seluruh yang 200 lebih itu tentara Amerika semuanya, sampai sekarang pun kita tidak nyesel.
Like many of those with radical views, Muhajir grew up in a family of extremists. And after the attacks, he helped bomber Ali Imran hide.
Saya sama Ustadz Ali Imran itu keliling Lamongan, Surabaya, ya. Saya berpikir begini, masa saya ini lari-lari terus, tidak ada selesainya. Padahal teman-teman saya kan sudah semuanya yang kayak saya itu sudah di dalam semua. Nah, akhirnya saya datang ke Polda Metro Jaya.
He handed himself in and was later cleared of his terrorism charges. His views show that Nasir's de-radicalisation work is not easy.
Nanti setelah kejadian penangkapan atau kena tembak atau baru dia nanti sadar. Kalau sebelum kena itu, sebelum ke penangkapan, sebelum kena, tidak akan. Meskipun dinasihati siapapun tidak akan bisa. Karena apa ya? Semangatnya ini sudah tertanam. Saya ini harus mati syahid. Seandainya sampean ini sekarang ini ya, mendanai saya untuk pergi ke Suriah, saya pergi. Yang penting saya bisa masuk ke Jabah Islamiyah, bukan ke ISIS. Semangat jihad, niat untuk hidup mulia atau mati syahid, itu sampai darah, sampai nafas terakhir tetap ada. Semoga saya nanti masih hidup, kemudian negara Indonesia ini sudah menjadi Islam. Entah itu anak saya yang memperjuangkan atau cucu saya.
Next, the root causes of terrorism and radical movement are backwardness, poverty, illiteracy, inequality, and unfairness in politics. Poverty also contributes to the spread of terrorism that has arisen since Indonesia was hit by a severe economic and monetary crisis in 1997, which made living more difficult for the Indonesian people.
The group called itself Al-Qaeda in Indonesia and had links to the notorious terror mastermind Nurdin Muhammad Top, killed by police in 2009.
We want to kill policemen and tear Solo City apart. In the disorder, we could impose Sharia law. We wanted to attack police and the government. We planned attacks in the capital.
Indonesia's counter-terrorism chief Anshad Mbai says the plot uncovered in Solo is the latest tangle in Indonesia's complicated terrorist web.
kelompok Solo yang terakhir ditangkap.
The Solo cell arrested recently is the main hub of the current terror cells across Indonesia, from Medan to Poso. The main controller is in Solo, as is the recruitment of new militants.
These homegrown terrorists working in small splinter groups are the latest Indonesian jihadists.
The threat persists of attacks that either large-scale attacks or small ones targeting government officials, including police officers. There are people out there organised in small groups with big plans and intending to try and get lucky.
The terrorism issue that happened in Indonesia poses a security issue that can be traced to the Indonesian citizenship. For example, a night attack on Indonesian National Security Minister Wiranto in October 2019 made Indonesian officials recognize the detection difficulty as a roadblock.
Impacts of terrorism towards ASEAN are divided into three, which is economic, politic, and also social. In the term of economic, financial losses because of the pirate attacks. They loses their money and also the country treasure. This terrorism is a big threat to the national and also the regional security, and its harm to the economy cannot be ignored. The losses also expose a government's inability to protect its people and property, thereby causing a loss in citizen confidence and also government legitimacy. Uncertainty in the market make the investment and cooperation are lower in world full of terrorism. Such attack increase uncertainty which limit investment and divert foreign and direct investment. In political, it affecting the maritime securities. The military, especially maritime forces, are work really hard to take care of the borders of their country in order to prevent the terrorism attack in the country. Furthermore, we know that Abu Sayyaf is the most violent of the Islamic separatist group in the southern of Philippines. They can force anyone to achieve what they wanted into their goals in the group. They have no humanity in themselves because kills many lives just in short time. Lastly, in terms of social, it creates trauma among the society. It affected societies may suffer collective trauma, which is particularly the case where attacks are targeted against a particular group of community. Abu Sayyaf appears to target also foreigners primarily for the purpose of ransom money, and some of them will not negotiate and just give them some of the money just to escape being kidnapping or prisoner by Abu Sayyaf group.
One solution that conducted by Malaysia in counter the terrorism is establish the Southeast Asia Regional Centre for Counter-Terrorism SARCCT. It established on the 1st July 2003. It serves as a regional counter-terrorism centre focusing primarily on training, capacity building, research, digital counter-messaging and public awareness program. In collaboration with other government and international organizations, the centre also promotes Malaysian perspective on the most effective means of countering the threat posed by terrorism. SARCCT also been actively involved in attempting to change the mindset and affect a shift in the position of those who believe that the war on the terror can only be won through the military means. The centre has leveraged various training courses, conference, seminar, workshop, and forum to discuss as well as exchange views on the root causes of the terrorism. The centre promotes the view that the campaign against terrorism requires a comprehensive, multi-pronged and multifaceted approach. For the recommendation in counter-terrorism is all ASEAN country members need to cooperate through regional joint venture in order to counter the terrorism in all the country members. Every country will not have ability to counter this problem alone because this problem is a very big event and difficult to solve. Various methods of collaboration between ASEAN countries have already generated significant results in reducing terrorist activity and movement among ASEAN member countries. In dealing with the JI terrorist group, the effect of cooperation between Malaysia and other countries, particularly Indonesia and Philippines, was successful. It showed that when all the ASEAN country members cooperate together, it helps in reducing the terrorism problem.
The only way that we can succeed against the terrorist is by working together, bilaterally and multilaterally. So it was a very big step that ASEAN decided 3 years ago to take up the issue of counterterrorism. Part of the real accomplishment here is to set the stage to develop the relationship so that we hopefully are not going to be in a position where we have to take military action, where we can communicate, where we can coordinate, where we can integrate our thinking, our understanding of the challenges so that we can take action early on through other means before we have to resort to military means.
In conclusion, the terrorism issues that happens in the Southeast Asia can give a bad impact to the economic, political, and social well-being of all its nations. Therefore, there is a need to take a consideration action to overcome it before it gets worse. Among the ways that ASEAN countries can counter terrorism is by joining forces and strengthen the unity amongst the Southeast Asia countries.